We all think of regret as this unavoidable emotion, right? Just a painful side effect of a bad choice. But what if it's not an emotion at all? What if regret is actually a system failure, a bug in the software we all use to make decisions? Well, today we're installing the patch. The reason you look back and regret past decisions isn't a lack of foresight, it's that you failed to weigh the future consequences. So we're going to show you the 3-step framework high performers use to guarantee their future self won't regret today's choice. And look, this isn't about getting a crystal ball. It's about a reliable protocol that lets you borrow wisdom from the person you're going to become. And this brings us to a really interesting paradox. See, the highest quality decisions, I'm talking about the ones that build a life you actually want, they aren't achieved by just having more willpower or, better intuition. No. They're achieved by structurally forcing your mind to analyze a choice's impact across different timelines. It's about neutralizing the emotional noise of the present so you can hear that clear signal from your future. And that right there, that's the whole issue. The problem isn't a lack of foresight, it's a lack of structure. We all have the ability to think about the future. The failure happens because we don't have a reliable system to kick that ability into gear when it matters most. Instead, we rely on gut feelings, which, let's be honest, are terrible at long-term planning. The solution is a system that forces a mandatory, rational pause. So to build that structure, we first have to understand our brain's default settings. We all have this biological blind spot, kind of like an evolutionary glitch, that makes short-sighted choices feel incredibly compelling even when we know they're wrong. And this isn't some personal flaw, it's a feature of our shared human hardware. Okay, so this blind spot, it's called present bias. It's this powerful, unconscious pull to want things right now. It's the force that makes hitting the snooze button for just 10 more minutes of comfort feel way better than getting up for that morning workout you planned. Your brain is literally hardwired to overvalue that immediate reward at the expense of the much larger delayed reward of being healthy. It's the invisible wall that's blocking your best intentions. And the mechanism that drives this bias is pretty fascinating. It's called hyperbolic discounting. Just think of it as your brain's really flawed math. It does this calculation that says $100 today is worth more than $1,000 a year from now. The value of that future reward doesn't just decrease, it absolutely plummets the further away it is. And that's why future you always seems to get stuck with the bill for whatever present you decides to do.
So who's supposed to stop all this from happening? Well, meet the hero of our story, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC. This is the rational, logical CEO of your brain. It handles all the heavy lifting, complex planning, analyzing consequences, reining in those impulses. But here's the catch. Your PFC is like a muscle. It gets tired. And when it's fatigued from stress or a long day of making decisions, it just loses its strength.
And this sets up a constant battle inside your head. On one side, you've got the ancient, powerful limbic system, which is all about short-term emotion and immediate gratification. And on the other, you have the sophisticated but easily tired PFC trying to execute a long-term plan. So without a structure to support it, which one do you think wins most of the time? Yeah, the limbic system. It just defaults to what feels good right now. And look, the cost of losing that battle over and over, it's immense. It's a life that's filled with chronic regret. It's that feeling of being misaligned. You know who you want to be, but you're constantly making choices that pull you in the opposite direction. This isn't just about small mistakes. It's about a life trajectory that slowly drifts away from your core goals, all because of a series of unchecked, short-sighted decisions. But here's the good news. There is a solution. And it's not about just trying harder or having more willpower. It's about installing a better system. This is the 10-10-10 framework. Now, I want you to think of this not as some simple tip, but as a robust, non-negotiable protocol for making any decision that truly matters. It's the support structure your PFC needs to finally win the battle against impulse. So how does it work? Simple. The framework forces you to become a mental time traveler. You intentionally look at your decision from 3 completely distinct points in the future. And these aren't random numbers. Each one is a very specific analytical filter. We've got 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. By systematically moving through these horizons, you strip away all that emotional fog and see the choice with absolute clarity. All right, first up, the emotional filter. You ask yourself, what are the consequences of this decision in the next 10 minutes? The purpose here is absolutely critical, to identify and basically quarantine the immediate emotional impulse. Are you looking for relief from discomfort, a jolt of excitement, a quick hit of dopamine? By just naming the instant payoff, you acknowledge what your limbic system wants without letting it hijack the whole process. Okay, next we jump forward to the consequence map. You ask, what are the consequences in 10 months? Now the initial emotional rush is long gone. The novelty has completely faded. What are the real, sustained, tangible results of this choice? Is it going to lead to chronic anxiety, financial strain? This step is just a cold, rational assessment of the unavoidable costs. This is where your PFC gets to do its best work. And then we get to the final horizon, the identity filter. You jump forward 10 years and you ask the ultimate question. What are the consequences in 10 years? From this vantage point, you're checking for alignment. Does this decision build toward the person I really want to be, the legacy I want to leave? This is the final veto. A choice can pass the first two filters, but if it conflicts with your long-term aspirational self, it gets rejected. Full stop. Okay, so we've covered what the framework is. Now let's dig into the why. Why is this simple structure so profoundly effective? Well, it's because it's not just some behavioral trick. It's a direct hack of your brain's operating system, and it leverages core neuroscience to force a better outcome. So you might be asking, why is this system basically foolproof? It's because it doesn't rely on you feeling rational. Instead, it creates a structure where rationality is the only possible path. It systematically disarms the very cognitive biases that lead to regret in the first place. This isn't self-help, this is applied psychology. There are 3 core psychological mechanisms at play here. First, it directly overrides that hyperbolic discounting by forcing your PFC to engage with the future. Second, it neutralizes emotional bias by creating what's known as cognitive decoupling. And third, it harnesses your brain's powerful innate drive for self-consistency by leveraging your long-term identity. And this brings us to a really powerful concept, cognitive decoupling. This is the framework's secret weapon. By forcing you to analyze that 10-minute feeling separately from the 10-month and 10-year consequences, you create a space, a critical gap between feeling and action. You literally decouple the emotional reaction from the decision itself. This suppresses the influence of that impulsive limbic system and lets your rational PFC take control. Now, understanding the science is one thing, but putting it into practice, that's everything. So let's walk through the exact, non-negotiable protocol you can use for your next big choice. Think of this as a direct command from your high-performance coach. The protocol is ruthlessly simple, just 3 steps. First, map the 10-minute impulse. You've got to name the emotion. Second, weigh the 10-month consequence. Calculate the real cost. And third, hold it up against your 10-year self and decide if you need to veto the whole choice. All right, step 1. Let's run through a quick example. Imagine you're offered a really demanding but prestigious new project at work. Before you say yes, you have to answer with brutal honesty, what is the single largest emotional payoff in the first 10 minutes? It's probably validation, a feeling of importance, maybe the excitement of a new challenge. You have to isolate that immediate driver. Now for step 2, time to shift your perspective. What is the single biggest, unavoidable negative cost that's going to show up in 10 months? Not a potential cost, I mean, the one that is most certain. With that project, it might be chronic stress, less time for your family, or maybe neglecting your health. This is where the decision is actually made, based on this realistic midterm cost. And finally, step 3, the ultimate check. Does taking this project align with the core values of the person I want to be in 10 years? And notice, this isn't about goals, it's about character. If your 10-year vision is a life with more freedom, more balance, and more presence, but this project creates the exact opposite, then the decision is vetoed, no negotiation. If it violates your identity, it's the wrong path. And really, this all brings us to the most powerful takeaway here. Your future isn't something that just happens to you. It is not a destination you simply arrive at. Your future is a choice. It's the sum total of the thousands of decisions you make today, tomorrow, and the next day. This framework gives you direct agency over that entire process. Let this really sink in. Regret is a choice made today by failing to borrow vision from your future self. Every single time you make an impulsive decision, you are actively choosing to burden your future self with the consequences. The 10-10-10 rule is a systematic way to stop that cycle cold and start acting as a responsible steward of your own future. So let's do a quick masterclass recap. The 10-10-10 rule is a direct solution for present bias and impulse control failure. And why that matters is that it gives you a systematic, repeatable way to guarantee your daily choices align with your aspirational self. The framework does this by overriding your brain's flawed math, that hyperbolic discounting, by forcing your prefrontal cortex to engage. And finally, it leverages your brain's deep-seated need for self-consistency to make sure your choices are building the identity you truly want. And always remember this: true high performance, true productivity isn't about hustling harder or just doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus and good judgment effortless. It's about building a structure that makes the right choice the easiest choice. So, here is your final command: commit. Don't just think about this. Don't save it for later. Take the next significant choice you have to make. Do it today and run the protocol. Map the impulse, weigh the consequence, and check it against your future self. That is how you begin building a future free of regret.